The rattling of the doctor's words shattered Willow Peterson's world like a china plate on a hardwood floor. Her hands trembled against the cold examination table as she stared at him, hoping she'd misheard. "I'm sorry, Miss Peterson, but the damage is extensive. You'll never be able to bear children." Dr. Morris removed his spectacles, polishing them with a handkerchief as if giving himself something to do other than witness her pain. "The scarring from the fever. I truly am sorry. It was 1876 in Cottonwood Springs, Arizona Territory." At 26, Willow had survived a childhood illness that had left her delicate but determined. She'd built a life teaching at the town's modest schoolhouse, pouring love into other people's children while quietly nurturing dreams of her own family someday. "There must be something," she whispered, but the doctor's solemn headshake crushed that fragile hope. The journey home was a blur. Cottonwood Springs spread before her, the general store, the saloon, the blacksmiths, all unchanged, while her entire future had just been rewritten. Her small cottage at the edge of town, usually a haven, now felt like a mockery of the family home it would never become. That evening, she sat on her porch swing, watching the sunset paint the desert in golds and reds. The beauty felt cruel against her shattered dreams. "Evening, Miss Peterson." The deep voice startled her from her thoughts. Vaughn James, the newest rancher in the territory, sat astride his chestnut stallion. His broad shoulders were silhouetted against the dying light, Stetson tipped back to reveal eyes as blue as a summer sky. At 32, he'd arrived 6 months ago, purchasing the struggling Diamond Creek Ranch and breathing new life into it through sheer determination and honest work. "Mr. James," she acknowledged, quickly wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. He dismounted in one fluid motion, concern etching his weathered face. "Forgive me for intruding, but are you all right, madam?" Something in his genuine concern cracked her carefully constructed composure. "I've just come from Dr. Morris with some difficult news." Vaughn tied his horse to the post and approached slowly, as if giving her time to send him away. When she didn't, he settled beside her on the porch steps, keeping a respectful distance. "I don't mean to pry, but sometimes sharing a burden makes it lighter to carry." His kindness was her undoing. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "They said I'll never be a mother." Her voice broke on the last word. "All my life, I've dreamed of having children, a family of my own. Now that's gone." Willow expected the awkward condolences, the hasty retreat most men would make from a crying woman discussing such intimate matters. Instead, Vaughn was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains. "My ma couldn't have children after me," he finally said. Doctor told her the same thing. Then one day, a wagon train passed through with orphans from a cholera outbreak. She took in 3 of them. He turned to her, his expression earnest. They were as much her children as if she'd borne them herself. "It's different," Willow protested. "Is it?" Vaughn's voice was gentle but firm. "A mother is someone who loves, protects, and nurtures. From what I've seen at the schoolhouse, you do that every day." She'd never considered it that way. "There are children in this world who need someone like you, Miss Peterson," he continued. "If you can't be a mother one way, then we'll find children who need one." She questioned, suddenly aware of his choice of words. A flush crept up his neck. "Figure of speech," he said quickly. "I just meant, well, this territory's full of orphans and foundlings. Where there's a will, there's a way." His words planted a tiny seed of hope in the barren field of her heart. "I should be going," he said, standing. "But Miss Peterson, don't give up on your dreams just yet. Sometimes they just take a different trail than we expected." As he rode away, Willow remained on the porch long after darkness fell, the first stars appearing in the velvet sky. His words echoed in her mind, offering a possibility she hadn't considered. The next morning, Willow woke with renewed purpose. She dressed carefully in her blue calico dress and pinned her chestnut hair in a neat bun. At the schoolhouse, she watched her students with fresh eyes, especially little Emma Miller, who'd been sent to live with her elderly aunt after her parents died in a flash flood last spring. The girl was quiet, withdrawn, her grief still a palpable thing. "Miss Peterson," Emma approached her desk as the other children filed out for lunch. "Could you help me with my letters? Aunt Martha tries, but her eyes aren't good." "Of course, Emma." Willow patted the chair beside her. As they worked together, something warm unfurled in her chest. Perhaps Vaughn was right. Perhaps motherhood wasn't just about bearing children. That evening, as Willow walked home, she spotted Vaughn loading supplies at the general store. He tipped his hat when he saw her. "Miss Peterson. Hope today treated you kinder." "It did, Mr. James. Thank you for your words yesterday. They helped me see things differently." He smiled, and something fluttered in her chest that had nothing to do with motherhood and everything to do with the way the sunset gilded his features. "Glad to hear it." He hesitated. "I was wondering if you might join me for supper at the hotel restaurant tomorrow. Just as friends, of course," he added hastily. "I'd like that, Mr. James." The next evening found them at a corner table in the hotel's modest dining room. Willow was surprised at how easily conversation flowed between them. Vaughn spoke of growing up in Texas, his time riding with a cattle outfit, and his dream of building something lasting at Diamond Creek. "What about you?" he asked. "Always been in Cottonwood Springs." "Born and raised," she confirmed. "My father was the schoolmaster before me. After he and mother passed in the influenza outbreak of '68, teaching seemed the natural path." "You're good at it," Vaughn said. "Saw you with the Miller girl yesterday. You have a way with children." The reminder of her barrenness dimmed her smile. "A cruel irony, isn't it?" Vaughn reached across the table, his calloused fingers hovering near hers. "May I speak plainly, Miss Peterson?" She nodded. "Life's dealt you a difficult hand, but I meant what I said. There are ways to be a mother that don't involve bearing children." "I've been thinking about that," she admitted, "but it's not so simple for an unmarried woman to take in a child." "No, it ain't," he agreed, "but that don't make it impossible." Something in his tone made her look up sharply. "You sound as if you have something specific in mind." Vaughn shifted in his seat. "Yesterday, I rode out to check on old Jake's place, the prospector who died last winter. Found something I wasn't expecting." "What was it?" "A boy, about 7 years old, living there alone." His jaw tightened. "Said his name's Daniel. His ma died in childbirth and his pa brought him here from Missouri looking for silver. When his pa took sick, told the boy to stay put if anything happened to him." "And something did," Willow guessed, horror dawning. "Boy buried him himself. Been living on what provisions were left and what he could hunt. Smart kid surviving out there alone, but skinny as a rail and wild as a jackrabbit. How long? Near 2 months by my reckoning. My God." Willow's hand flew to her mouth. "Where is he now?" "Still there. Wouldn't come with me. Said his pa told him to stay put." Vaughn's eyes met hers. "I left him food and promised to come back today. Thought maybe you might come with me. He needs schooling, and more importantly, he needs someone who can show him what it means to have a home again." "You want me to take him in?" The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. "Not just him," Vaughn said quietly. "While I was in town yesterday, Sheriff Tanner mentioned 2 sisters at the mission in Tucson. Parents killed in an Apache raid. No relatives to take them." "Mr. James, what exactly are you suggesting?" He took a deep breath. "I'm suggesting that Diamond Creek Ranch has a big house that's mighty empty, and I'm suggesting that maybe you and I could give these children the home they need. Together." Her heart hammered against her ribs. but we barely know each other." "I know enough," he said simply. "I know you're kind and brave and have more love to give than most. I know I've thought about you every day since I first saw you teaching under that cottonwood tree last fall. This is unconventional. So's most of the West," he countered with a small smile. "I'm not proposing marriage, not yet anyway, but I am proposing a partnership. Help me bring these children to Diamond Creek. We can figure out the rest as we go." The idea was madness, completely improper, and yet, "When do we leave for the prospector's cabin?" she heard herself ask. The smile that broke across Vaughn's face was like sunrise in the desert. The next morning they set out at dawn. Willow rode side saddle on a gentle mare Vaughn had brought for her, a bundle of supplies tied behind her saddle. The terrain grew rougher as they left the valley, climbing into the foothills where veins of silver had lured men like Daniel's father. "There it is." Vaughn pointed to a crude cabin nestled against a rocky outcropping. Smoke curled from the chimney, a good sign the boy was still there. They approached slowly. "Daniel," Vaughn called. "It's Vaughn James from yesterday. I've brought a friend." No response. "Maybe he's out hunting," Willow suggested, but a prickle of unease ran down her spine. Vaughn dismounted and helped her down. "Wait here," he said, hand moving to the revolver at his hip. "No," she said firmly. "If he's scared, seeing us together might be better." They approached the cabin together. The door stood slightly ajar. "Daniel," Willow called softly. "My name is Miss Peterson. Mr. James told me about you. We've brought food and clean clothes." A shuffling sound came from inside, then a small, dirty face peered around the door frame. The boy's eyes were huge in his thin face, his hair a matted tangle. "You the teacher?" His voice was raspy, as if from disuse. "I am," she confirmed, kneeling to his level. "Mr. James said you might need some learning." Daniel's suspicious gaze moved between them. "Pa said to stay put." "Your pa wanted to keep you safe," Vaughn said gently, "but I don't think he meant for you to stay alone forever. He'd want someone looking after you proper." The boy's lower lip trembled. "Don't need looking after." "Everyone needs someone, son," Vaughn said. "Even me." Daniel's gaze fixed on Willow. "You got children?" The question stung, but Willow answered honestly. "No, I don't. But I'd very much like to have one. A boy like me, especially a boy like you." Daniel considered this, then stepped fully into view. He was wearing clothes far too big for him, his father's, Willow guessed, crudely belted at the waist. "I got pa's things," he said defensively, "and his gun." "Those are yours to keep," Vaughn assured him. "But how about we pack them up and take them somewhere you can have a real bed and hot meals every day?" "Where?" "My ranch," Vaughn said. "Diamond Creek. There's horses and cattle and a creek full of fish." Interest sparked in the boy's eyes. "You got dogs?" "One," Vaughn smiled. "Old Blue. Best cattle dog in the territory. Been wanting a boy to teach him tricks." Daniel took a hesitant step forward. "Can I come back if I want to?" "Anytime," Vaughn promised. "But I think you might like it enough to stay." The boy thought for a long moment, then nodded once. "Need to get pa's things." Together they helped Daniel gather the few precious possessions he wanted to keep: a battered Bible, a pocket watch, a hunting knife. The rest, they promised, could be collected later. As Daniel climbed up to sit in front of Vaughn on his horse, Willow felt a surge of protective tenderness that she knew instinctively was maternal. The ride back was slow. Daniel, initially tense and silent, gradually began to ask questions. What was the ranch like? Would he have his own room? Did Miss Peterson live there too? This last question brought a blush to Willow's cheeks. "Miss Peterson lives in town," Vaughn explained, "but she'll visit often to continue your schooling." Daniel frowned. "But if she's gonna be my new ma, shouldn't she stay with us?" The innocent question hung in the air between them. "It's not quite that simple," Willow said gently. Mr. James and I are friends who both want to help you. Pa said a boy needs both a ma and pa, Daniel said with the unassailable logic of childhood. Said that's how it's meant to be. Vaughn caught Willow's eye over the boy's head, a question in his gaze. She gave a small nod. Tell you what, Daniel, Vaughn said. How about Miss Peterson stays at the ranch for a while to help you settle in? We can figure out the rest as we go. This seemed to satisfy the boy, who soon dozed off against Vaughn's chest, exhaustion overcoming his excitement. I hope I didn't overstep, Vaughn said quietly. No, Willow assured him. It makes sense. The boy needs stability. She paused. And I find I'm not ready to leave him just yet. When they reached Diamond Creek, Daniel's eyes widened at the sight of the sprawling ranch house. It wasn't grand by Eastern standards, but with its deep porch and sturdy construction, it was impressive in the territory. All this is yours, Daniel breathed. Ours now, Vaughn corrected, helping him dismount. A weathered older man emerged from the barn. There you are, boss, was starting to worry. He stopped short at the sight of Daniel and Willow. Well now, what have we here? Hank, this is Daniel and Miss Peterson. They'll be staying with us. If Hank was surprised by this announcement, he hid it well. Pleasure to meet you both. Got stew on if you're hungry. Daniel's stomach growled audibly, bringing a smile to Willow's face. I think that's a yes. The next days fell into a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. Vaughn showed Daniel around the ranch, teaching him about the cattle and horses. Willow set up a schoolroom in a sunny corner of the house and began filling the gaps in the boy's education. In the evenings, they sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the distant mountains purple and gold. Daniel flourished under their attention. The frightened, half-wild boy began to emerge as a curious, intelligent child with a quick laugh and a natural way with animals. He followed Vaughn like a shadow during ranch work and proudly showed Willow each new word he mastered. After 2 weeks, Vaughn approached Willow as she washed dishes after supper, Daniel already asleep upstairs. Been thinking, he said, taking a towel to dry the plates she handed him. Those sisters in Tucson. Might be time to ride down and see about bringing them back. Willow's hand stilled in the soapy water. You were serious about that? Course I was. He looked puzzled. Why wouldn't I be? It's just, taking in 1 child is a big change. 3 would be. A family, he finished simply. Daniel needs more than just us, Willow. He needs brothers and sisters. It was the first time he'd used her given name. It sounded right in his mouth as if he'd been saying it for years. You're right, she acknowledged. When would we go? Thought I might ride down tomorrow if you're willing to stay with Daniel. She hesitated. Shouldn't I come if these girls are to see me as whatever I am to be to them? It's a hard 3-day ride, Vaughn said. And someone needs to stay with Daniel. I thought I'd go assess the situation, make sure they're suitable. Suitable? Willow raised an eyebrow. You know what I mean, he said, flustered. Make sure they're not too troubled. Some of those raid survivors, well, they've seen things no child should see. Willow's heart softened. All the more reason they need a home, Vaughn, but I understand. Go see them. Daniel and I will be fine. He reached for her hand, his calloused palm warm against her skin. Thank you, Willow, for all of this, for seeing the possibility. She squeezed his hand. Thank you for showing me there was one. The 3 days of Vaughn's absence stretched longer than Willow had anticipated. Daniel grew restless, though he tried to hide it. Is Mr. Vaughn coming back? He asked on the 3rd evening, picking at his supper. Of course he is, Willow assured him. He's gone to meet some children who might come live here too. Would you like that, having others your age around? Daniel considered this. Guess it depends. Are they nice? I hope so, Willow said honestly. But even if they're scared or sad at first, we can help them just like we're helping you. You mean like how I couldn't read good, but now I can? Exactly like that, she smiled. Everyone needs help sometimes. Even you and Mr. Vaughn. The boy's perception startled her. Yes, Daniel, even us. The next morning, Willow was teaching Daniel his sums when a cloud of dust on the horizon announced riders approaching. Her heart leaped to her throat. It's him. Daniel abandoned his slate and ran for the door. Willow followed more sedately, smoothing her skirts and checking her hair. Vaughn rode at the head of a small procession himself. Another rider she didn't recognize, and a wagon driven by a woman in a nun's habit. In the back of the wagon, two small figures huddled together. Daniel pressed against her side as the caravan approached. Are those the new children? I believe so, Willow said, her throat tight with sudden emotion. Vaughn dismounted in a fluid motion, his face creased with fatigue but his eyes bright. Willow, Daniel, come meet our new family members. The nun helped the children from the wagon. They were girls, as Vaughn had said, one about 9 and the other perhaps 6. Both had dark hair and solemn eyes, their simple dresses clean but worn. This is Sister Maria from the Tucson Mission, Vaughn introduced the nun, and these are Sarah and Emily Jenkins. Willow stepped forward, kneeling to the girls' level. Hello, Sarah, Emily. I'm Miss Peterson and this is Daniel. We're so glad you've come to stay with us. The older girl, Sarah, regarded her warily. Is this an orphanage? No, Willow said gently. This is a home, our home if you'd like it to be. Are you married? Sarah asked bluntly, looking between Willow and Vaughn. Sister Maria made a small sound of disapproval, but Willow answered honestly. No, we're not. Mr. James owns this ranch and I'm a teacher. We're friends who want to give children like you a safe place to grow up. The younger girl, Emily, who had been hiding behind her sister, peeked around. Do you have a doll? Mine got lost. The simple question broke the tension. No, but we can make one, Willow promised. Would you like that? Emily nodded solemnly. Mr. Vaughn has horses, Daniel volunteered. And a dog named Blue who does tricks. This revelation earned him a flicker of interest from both girls. Why don't we go inside? Vaughn suggested. Sister Maria and Mr. Parker have ridden a long way to bring you to us. The other rider, a lean, sun-weathered man with a badge pinned to his vest, nodded. Marshall Parker, madam, escorted the sisters and the girls from Tucson, dangerous country for women and children traveling alone. We're grateful for your protection, Willow said. Inside, Hank had prepared a hearty meal. The girls ate cautiously at first, then with more enthusiasm when it became clear there was plenty to go around. Daniel, already feeling proprietary about his new home, proudly showed them his slate and the few toys Vaughn had carved for him. After the meal, Sister Maria pulled Vaughn and Willow aside while Marshall Parker entertained the children with a story. I must be frank, the nun said in a low voice. This arrangement is highly unusual. The mission would not normally release children to an unmarried couple. We understand, Vaughn said, but these girls have been at the mission for months with no one claiming them. True, Sister Maria acknowledged, and I can see they'll be well cared for here, but the church cannot officially sanction this arrangement unless we marry, Willow finished quietly. Sister Maria nodded. I've brought the necessary papers for temporary guardianship, but permanent adoption would require more formal arrangements. Vaughn and Willow exchanged a glance loaded with unspoken meaning. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Vaughn said finally. For now, our focus is helping these children heal. After signing the papers, Sister Maria and Marshall Parker departed, promising to return in 3 months to check on the girls' welfare. As the wagon disappeared down the road, Willow felt the weight of responsibility settle more firmly on her shoulders. What now? She asked softly, Vaughn's hand found hers. Now we become a family, one day at a time. The days that followed were a delicate dance of adjustment. Sarah remained watchful, protective of her younger sister. Emily alternated between shy silence and bursts of unexpected chattiness. Daniel vacillated between excitement at having playmates and jealousy when Willow's attention was divided. A week after the girls' arrival, Willow found Sarah sitting alone on the porch steps at dawn, her knees drawn up to her chest. "You're up early," Willow said, settling beside her. Sarah shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Keep dreaming about the raid." Willow's heart constricted. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No." The answer was immediate, then softer. "Maybe someday." "Whenever you're ready," Willow promised. "Or never if that's what feels right." They sat in silence, watching the sun paint the eastern sky in pinks and golds. "My ma used to say the morning sky was God painting pictures for us," Sarah said suddenly. "That's a beautiful thought. She's dead. Pa, too." The girl's voice was flat. "The Apache killed them." "I'm so sorry, Sarah. Are you going to die too?" The question blindsided Willow. "Not for a very long time if I can help it." "That's what Ma said." Then the Apache came. Willow chose her next words carefully. "I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen, but I can promise that as long as I'm alive, I'll do everything in my power to keep you and Emily safe." Sarah studied her with eyes too old for her young face. "Mr. Vaughn says the same thing. He means it," Willow assured her. "He's a good man. Are you going to marry him?" The question was direct, typical of Sarah's forthrightness. "I don't know," Willow answered honestly. "You should," Sarah said decisively. "Emily likes you both. She needs a ma and pa. And what about you? What do you need, Sarah?" The girl looked away. "Just need Emily to be okay." Willow gently placed her hand over Sarah's smaller one. "You're allowed to need things too, you know." Sarah didn't respond, but she didn't pull her hand away either. They sat together as the sun climbed higher, sharing a silence that felt like the beginning of trust. Inside, Willow found Vaughn teaching Emily to make biscuits, flour dusting both their clothes and noses. The sight warmed something deep inside her. "Look, Miss Willow." Emily held up misshapen lumps of dough. "I'm helping. I can see that," Willow smiled. "Those will be the best biscuits we've ever had." Vaughn caught her eye over Emily's head, his expression soft. "Everything all right with Sarah?" "Getting there," Willow said. "One day at a time, like you said." That evening, after the children were asleep, Vaughn and Willow sat on the porch swing, the night air cool around them. "Sister Maria's visit got me thinking," Vaughn said after a comfortable silence. "About what she said regarding our arrangement." Willow's pulse quickened. "Oh, these past weeks with you and the children. It's felt right, Willow, more right than anything in my life before." "It has for me too," she admitted. He shifted to face her. "I know this started as a way to help children who needed a home, but it's become something more for me." His hand found hers in the darkness. "I'm falling in love with you, Willow Peterson. I think maybe I started falling the moment I saw you crying on your porch and couldn't bear to ride past." Her breath caught. "Vaughn, you don't have to say anything now," he hurried on. "I know this has all happened fast, but I wanted you to know where I stand. Whatever you decide, whatever you feel, it won't change my commitment to the children. Or to you." In answer, Willow leaned forward and pressed her lips gently to his. The kiss was brief but full of promise. "I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered against his mouth. "It terrifies me how quickly it's happened, but it feels as natural as breathing." His arms encircled her, drawing her closer. "Then we'll figure out the rest together." The next morning at breakfast, Vaughn cleared his throat. "I've been thinking," he announced to the table at large. "It's nearly August. Before we know it, school will be starting." Daniel looked alarmed. "Do I have to go to town school? I like learning here with Miss Willow." "That's actually what I wanted to discuss." Vaughn said. Miss Peterson needs to return to her teaching position in town when the term begins. 3 dismayed faces turned to Willow. But who will teach us? Emily asked in a small voice. And who will make our lunches? Sarah added practically. Willow felt a pang of guilt. She'd been so caught up in the day-to-day joys of their unconventional family that she'd pushed thoughts of her teaching obligations aside. I was thinking, Vaughn continued, that maybe it's time we make our arrangement more permanent. He turned to Willow. This isn't how I plan to do this, but I think these children deserve to be part of the conversation. Understanding dawned on her. Vaughn. He reached across the table for her hand. Willow Peterson, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Of making this family we've started official in the eyes of God and the law. 3 pairs of eyes fixed on her with varying degrees of hope and anxiety. If you say yes, Daniel said earnestly, you can stay forever. And we can call you Ma, Emily added hopefully. Sarah said nothing, but her gaze was intense, as if Willow's answer would determine whether she could finally let her guard down. Tears pricked Willow's eyes. Yes, she said, her voice wavering. Yes to all of it. The children erupted in cheers. Vaughn rose from his chair and came around the table, kneeling beside her and producing a small ring from his pocket. I've been carrying this since Tucson, he admitted. Bought it while Sister Maria was finalizing the papers. Wasn't sure when the right moment would come. He slipped the simple gold band with its modest pearl onto her finger. It's perfect, she whispered. The wedding was set for 2 weeks later, enough time for preparations, but soon enough to be settled before the school term began. Word spread quickly through Cottonwood Springs. A teacher marrying a rancher was news enough. That they were taking in orphan children made it the talk of the territory. Reactions were mixed. Most townsfolk were supportive, especially those who had witnessed Willow's quiet longing for a family of her own. Some, however, raised eyebrows at the hasty nature of the union. You've known him barely 4 months, Mrs. Hollister, the mayor's wife, reminded Willow as she helped her select fabric for a wedding dress. And taking in 3 orphans, it's a lot to manage all at once. When it's right, you know it, Willow replied simply. And the children need us now, not after a lengthy courtship. The day before the wedding, Willow was at her cottage gathering the last of her belongings when there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find Sheriff Tanner, his expression grave. Miss Peterson, may I have a word? Of course, Sheriff. Is something wrong? He removed his hat, turning it nervously in his hands. Received a telegram from the marshal in Prescott. There's been an inquiry about 2 girls, Sarah and Emily Jenkins. Their uncle's been looking for them. Willow's blood ran cold. Their uncle, Thomas Jenkins, brother to their late father, says he only just learned of his brother's death and the girls' survival. What does he want? To claim them. As next of kin, he has the right. Willow sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. The girls have settled with us. They're happy. Tomorrow, Vaughn and I will be married. We're becoming a family. Sheriff Tanner shifted uncomfortably. I understand, Miss Peterson, but legally speaking, blood relations have priority in these matters. When is he coming? That's just it. He's already here. Arrived on the afternoon stage. He's over at the hotel now. Does he know where the girls are? Not yet. Thought I'd speak to you first. Willow stood, smoothing her skirts with trembling hands. I need to tell Vaughn. We'll come to your office within the hour to meet this. Uncle. After the sheriff left, Willow rode to Diamond Creek as fast as her horse would carry her. She found Vaughn mending a fence with Daniel's eager assistance. Willow, he straightened, alarm crossing his features at her disheveled appearance. What's happened? She explained the situation in a rush, mindful of Daniel's listening ears and the girls playing nearby. Vaughn's jaw tightened. We'll go to town together. The children can stay with Hank. The girls should come, Willow argued quietly. If this man is truly their uncle, they might recognize him. And if they don't want to go with him, then we'll fight for them, she said with more confidence than she felt. An hour later, they were gathered in the sheriff's office. Vaughn, Willow, the children, and Sheriff Tanner. The door opened, and a well-dressed man entered. He was tall and lean, with graying hair and a neatly trimmed beard. Mr. Jenkins, Sheriff Tanner made the introductions. This is Vaughn James and Miss Willow Peterson. And these are Sarah and Emily, the man breathed, his gaze fixed on the girls. You're the spitting image of your mother. Sarah stared at him blankly. Emily pressed closer to Willow's side. You know this man? Sheriff Tanner asked the girls gently. Sarah shook her head slowly. Pa didn't talk about having a brother. I moved east before you were born, Thomas Jenkins explained. Your father and I. We had a falling out. I regret that now more than I can say. How did you find out about us? Sarah asked, suspicion heavy in her voice. A notice in a Boston newspaper. They publish lists of raid victims and survivors. When I saw your parents' names and that 2 daughters had survived, I came as soon as I could. Where were you when the Apache came? Sarah's voice shook with sudden anger. Where were you when they killed Ma and Pa and burned our house? Where were you when they took us to that mission and nobody wanted us? Sarah, Willow murmured, placing a steadying hand on the girl's shoulder. I'm sorry I wasn't there, Thomas said, his voice thick with genuine regret. I can't change the past, but I'm here now and I want to give you a good home. I have a house in Boston with a garden. My wife is looking forward to meeting you. We already have a home, Emily said, finding her voice. With Miss Willow and Mr. Vaughn and Daniel, we're going to be a family. Thomas glanced at Vaughn and Willow, confusion crossing his features. I was told the girls were at a mission in Tucson. They were, Vaughn confirmed. We've taken them in. Miss Peterson and I are to be married tomorrow. I see. Thomas's expression softened slightly. That's commendable. But surely you understand they're my brother's children, my blood. I can provide for them in ways a frontier rancher cannot. With all due respect, Willow said, stepping forward, these girls need stability and love more than material comforts. They've found that with us. And you think uprooting them to Boston wouldn't be destabilizing, Thomas countered. Not as much as sending them with a stranger, Vaughn said firmly. Sheriff Tanner cleared his throat. Perhaps we should let the girls have some say in the matter. All eyes turned to Sarah and Emily. The younger girl clung to Willow's skirts, but Sarah stood straight, her young face set in determined lines. I remember Pa talking about a brother once, she said slowly. He said he went east and got too fancy for his own family, said we weren't good enough for him anymore. Thomas winced. Your father and I had our differences, but that doesn't change the fact that you're my nieces. We want to stay with Miss Willow and Mr. Vaughn, Sarah said firmly. They found us when nobody else wanted us. They're teaching us things and giving us a home. Emily feels safe here. She paused. I feel safe here. Thomas looked stricken. I understand you've formed attachments, but I am your legal guardian now. Not necessarily, Sheriff Tanner interjected. The mission granted temporary guardianship to Mr. James, pending his marriage to Miss Peterson. The territorial judge would have to rule on any change. Hope flared in Willow's chest. Then I'll petition the judge, Thomas said, his jaw set. Blood counts for something in the law. So does the welfare of the children, Vaughn countered. These girls have been through enough upheaval. Thomas studied the scene before him, Sarah standing protectively near Emily, who remained pressed against Willow, Daniel hovering uncertainly at Vaughn's side. Something in his expression shifted. Perhaps we've been hasty, he said finally. I came here expecting to find 2 frightened girls in need of rescue. Instead, I find them already part of a family. he sighed. "Would you permit me to stay in town a few days, to get to know my nieces properly before any decisions are made?" Relief washed over Willow. "Of course," she said quickly, before Vaughn could object. "You're welcome to visit Diamond Creek Ranch. See for yourself the home we're building." "Thank you," Thomas said formally. "I'll take a room at the hotel for now." As they left the sheriff's office, Willow noticed Sarah watching her uncle with cautious interest. Whatever happened, she realized, the girls deserved the chance to know their blood relation, even if they ultimately chose to stay. The wedding proceeded as planned the next day. It was a simple affair in the town's small church, with most of Cottonwood Springs in attendance. Thomas Jenkins sat in the back, observing quietly. Willow wore a dress of pale blue silk, hastily altered from a ready-made gown from the general store. The children stood with them, Daniel proudly holding the ring, the girls with flowers in their hair. "Do you, Vaughn James, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Pastor Miller asked. "I do," Vaughn said, his voice steady and sure. "And do you, Willow Peterson, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," she whispered, hardly believing that in the space of a few short months her life had transformed so completely. "Then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Vaughn's kiss was gentle but full of promise. The congregation erupted in applause, led enthusiastically by the children. At the reception in the church hall, Thomas approached them, looking uncomfortable in his formal Eastern suit. "Congratulations," he said, offering his hand to Vaughn. "It was a beautiful ceremony." "Thank you for coming," Willow said sincerely. Thomas glanced to where Sarah and Emily were sharing cake with Daniel and the other children. "They seem happy here." "They are," Vaughn said. "Or at least they're healing. It takes time." "I've been thinking," Thomas said slowly. "Perhaps I was too hasty yesterday, seeing the girls today with you and the community. It's clear they've found a place they belong." Willow hardly dared hope. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that my brother would want what's best for his daughters. And it appears that might be here with you." He paused. "If you'll permit it, I'd like to remain in their lives, visit when I can, write letters. They should know they have family in the East." "We would welcome that," Willow said warmly, tears pricking her eyes. "Every child deserves to know where they come from, even as they build a future somewhere new." "Thank you." Thomas smiled, a genuine expression that softened his stern features. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe I should get better acquainted with my nieces." As he walked away, Vaughn slipped his arm around Willow's waist. "That was unexpected." "He's a better man than his brother gave him credit for," she observed. "People can surprise you." "They certainly can," Vaughn agreed, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Like a schoolteacher who became a mother to 3 children overnight. And a rancher who knew exactly what to say to a heartbroken woman on her porch swing." Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, the newly formed James family returned to Diamond Creek. The children, exhausted from excitement, fell asleep almost immediately on the porch beneath a canopy of stars. Vaughn took his wife's hand. "Happy Mrs. James." The name sent a thrill through her. "More than I ever thought possible, even though this isn't the family you imagined having." Willow thought of the doctor's devastating pronouncement, how it had seemed to close a door forever. Instead, it had opened another one that led to a family formed by choice and love rather than blood. "This is better than anything I could have imagined," she said softly. "These children needed a mother. I needed children to love, and we both needed you." "I've been thinking," Vaughn said, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Daniel mentioned yesterday that Billy Waters from school is living with his grandmother since his parents died in that mine collapse last year." Willow chuckled. "Are you suggesting we need a 4th child already?" "The grandmother's not well," Vaughn said seriously. "Hank mentioned she's been looking for someone to take the boy when she can't anymore." "Our house will soon be bursting at the seams," Willow observed, but there was no objection in her tone. "Then we'll build a bigger one," Vaughn said simply. "There's plenty of land here." Willow leaned against his shoulder, watching the stars glitter like diamond dust across the velvet sky. "There's something I haven't told you," she said after a comfortable silence. "Something I've been afraid to say out loud." Vaughn waited, giving her space to find the words. "When the doctor told me I couldn't have children, he said it was because of scarring from a childhood fever. But he also said—" She took a deep breath. "He said there was a small chance, very small, that a miracle might happen someday." "A miracle," Vaughn repeated, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I didn't want to hope," she admitted. "It seemed cruel to wish for something so unlikely when we already have 3 beautiful children who need us." "But you do hope," he guessed gently. "Sometimes," she whispered. "Is that wrong of me?" "No, darling." He gathered her closer. "Hope is never wrong, and whether we have a child of our blood or not, you're already the finest mother these children could ask for." "And you're the father they deserve," she replied, reaching up to touch his face. 6 months later, Diamond Creek Ranch had transformed. The house had been expanded to add 2 more bedrooms. Billy Waters had indeed joined their growing family after his grandmother's passing. Thomas Jenkins had visited twice, bringing gifts from the East and stories about the girl's father as a young man. Willow had resigned her position at the schoolhouse in town, choosing instead to establish a small school at the ranch for their children, and those from neighboring homesteads too distant to attend the town school regularly. On a bright spring morning, Willow woke feeling strangely different. There had been signs for weeks that she'd attributed to stress, the fatigue, the sensitivity to smells, the occasional nausea. But this morning, as she placed her hand on her abdomen, she felt a certainty that took her breath away. When she told Vaughn, his face transformed with wonder. They agreed to wait, to be sure, before telling the children. But as the weeks passed and her condition became more certain, the joy between them grew. "A miracle," Vaughn would whisper against her still flat stomach in the darkness of their bedroom. "One of many," Willow would correct him, thinking of the family they had built from broken pieces. They told the children on a Sunday afternoon after a picnic by the creek. The reactions varied. Emily was ecstatic, Daniel confused but eventually pleased, Sarah practical about what a baby would need, and Billy reserved until Vaughn assured him that a new baby wouldn't change his place in the family. As her belly grew, so did their household. 2 more children joined them, siblings found abandoned at a stage stop, their parents victims of a fever that had swept through a mining camp. "Are we crazy?" Willow asked Vaughn one night as they finished adding another bedroom to the ever-expanding house. "Taking in so many when we're about to have a baby of our own, probably," he admitted with a grin. "But I wouldn't have it any other way." In the fall, as the first snow dusted the mountains, Willow gave birth to a daughter they named Hope. The children gathered around the bed, marveling at their tiny sister. "She's so small," Billy observed. "Was I that small?" Emily wondered. "All babies start small," Sarah explained with the authority of her 11 years. Daniel, now 9, studied the infant with serious eyes. "She's lucky," he declared. "She gets all of us to look after her." "That's right," Vaughn agreed, his arm around Willow's shoulders. "We're all family here, different beginnings, same heart." As the children filed out, guided by Hank's wife who had come to help with the birth, Willow cradled her daughter. "When I heard the doctor's verdict that day, I thought my dream of motherhood was over," she murmured. "I never imagined it was just beginning in a different way." The best dreams often come to us sideways, Vaughn said, gently touching Hope's tiny hand. When we're busy looking ahead, life surprises us from the sides. 2 years later, Diamond Creek Ranch had become known throughout the territory as a haven for children in need. The original house had been joined by 2 more structures, a schoolhouse and a bunkhouse for the older boys. 14 children now called it home, with Vaughn and Willow as the heart of this unconventional family. On Hope's second birthday, as the extended family gathered to celebrate, Thomas Jenkins arrived with news. "I've established a trust," he announced, "for all the children's education, and for the expansion of what you're doing here." Willow, now visibly expecting their second biological child, clasped his hands gratefully. "Thomas, that's incredibly generous. It's selfish, actually," he admitted with a small smile. "My wife and I never had children of our own. Being part of this," he gestured to the bustling ranch yard where children of various ages played, "has given us a family connection we never expected." Later that night, after the celebrations had wound down and the children were asleep, Willow and Vaughn sat on their porch swing, the same one from the original house, now moved to accommodate the expanded home. "Did you ever imagine this?" Willow asked, leaning against her husband's shoulder. 14 children, a baby on the way, and another trust fund from a Boston businessman, Vaughn chuckled. "Can't say that I did. I meant all of it, this life, this family." "No," he admitted. "When I bought this ranch, I thought it would be just me and a few cowhands, working the land until I got too old to ride." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "But the moment I saw you crying on that porch, I knew my plans were about to change." "I'm glad they did," she whispered. "Do you remember what I said to you that day?" Willow smiled, the memory as clear as if it had happened yesterday instead of nearly 4 years ago. "You said if I couldn't be a mother one way, we'd find children who needed one." "Smartest thing I ever said," Vaughn declared, his hand resting on the swell of her belly where their second miracle grew. Below them, the lights of the ranch glowed warmly in the gathering dusk. From the children's rooms came the murmur of bedtime stories and quiet laughter. On the hill behind the house stood a small cemetery where Daniel's father had been properly reburied, alongside the graves of Billy's grandmother and 2 infants who had come to them too sick to save. Life and death, joy and sorrow, past and future, all woven together in the tapestry of the family they had created. "I love you, Vaughn James," Willow said simply. "And I love you, Willow James," he replied. "Mother of many, heart of my heart." Together they rocked gently as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, the same stars that had witnessed their beginning and would watch over their family for generations to come, a family built not from obligation or blood, but from the most powerful force of all, the choice to love.